He who understands the teaching of the unconscious has a most thoroughgoing knowledge of all things. He who understands the teaching of the unconscious sees into the spiritual realm of all Buddhahood. Huineng, perhaps the greatest Zen master of all time, proclaimed, "From the first, not a thing is," or, in other words, in reality, nothing exists. The doctrine of nothingness, or sunyata, is the very core and foundation of Zen Buddhism. All enlightened beings, including Zen masters, as well as the Buddha himself, have experienced the fact that the natural state of reality is that of complete nothingness. Our first reaction is that there is no way it's true. If nothing exists, then what is this world that we see in front of us? What are those sounds we hear? How can we feel emotions and have thoughts? In the following story, Huineng explains why that happens. There were 3 monks arguing about the nature of a flag, which was flapping in the wind. The first one said, "The flag is an inanimate object, and it is the wind that makes it flap." The second one said, "Both wind and the flag are inanimate objects, and the flapping is an impossibility." The third one said, "The flapping is due to a combination of cause and condition." The discussion went on when Huineng interrupted, saying, "It is neither wind nor the flag, but your own mind that flaps." In the story, Huineng teaches the monks that all reality is made by our minds. It has been proven many times that at the very least, our minds have the ability to heavily influence reality. For example, the law of attraction, in which positive thoughts bring positive events into our lives. Also, the placebo effect, in which the human mind subconsciously influences different phenomena. However, Zen takes it a step further and teaches that all of reality is made by our minds. Everything that we see, hear, touch, smell and taste, every emotion, feeling and sensation, every being around us, every thought that appears in our heads, all of them are created by our minds, and none of them exist in the true reality. You see, Zen and Buddhism as a whole teach us that in a sense, there are 2 realities. The one that we experience every day is the dualistic reality, and the one that the Buddha realized is the non-dualistic reality. First, let's cover the dualistic reality, inside of which we exist every day. In this life, everything is defined by opposites. Life opposes death, yes opposes no, gain opposes loss, and so on. You can look at all the things and beings around you, and you can say that they exist. The opposite of their existence would be their non-existence. There are many things around you, but you can probably imagine many things that are currently not around you. In this world, there is either existence or non-existence. Everything can be described in opposites. It is or it isn't. This is the world of duality. This is the world made by our minds. However, the true reality, which Buddhism wants us to realize, is one of non-duality, one beyond opposites, an existence which is beyond life and death, beyond yes and no, and beyond gain and loss. So, in other words, in reality, there is neither death nor life, neither gain nor loss, and so on. There is no existence, but also there is no non-existence. Nothing exists, but also everything exists. All is one, but also one is all. In the whole universe, there are many grains of sand, but also just one grain of sand contains the whole universe. In reality, there are no opposites. Life is death, and death is life. This is the true reality, the reality of non-duality. We said that the dualistic reality is created by the mind. Consequently, the non-dualistic reality is the reality of no mind. Now, the existence of such reality doesn't make any logical sense. How can the whole universe contain an immeasurable number of grains of sand, and yet just one of those grains can contain the same universe within itself? How can death be the same as life? It's possible because non-duality is beyond all opposites. It is beyond logic as well, the same way that there is neither life nor death. There is neither logic nor irrationality. This fact creates a lot of problems when we try to explain non-duality. Question: How would you describe something, the opposite of which doesn't exist? As said before, every single thing in our world has its opposite. The existence of a grain of sand has its opposite in the form of the non-existence of a grain of sand. The existence of the universe has its opposite in the non-existence of the universe. In our world, but also in our language, there is absolutely no way of describing non-duality. Everything that we can ever describe has its opposite. We simply have to imagine it not being there, or, linguistically speaking, add no in front of it. Even the name non-dualistic reality is wrong, because it has its opposite in the form of the dualistic reality. But Zen masters call it that, because they have to call it something, so that their students can understand it. The ultimate reason itself is without words, but to express it, words are borrowed. The Great Way has no form, but in order to come in contact with the uncultivated, it reveals itself in form." End quote. So, by definition, the question, what is non-duality, can never be answered. Zen masters often describe non-duality as no this, no that, no life, no death, no gain, no loss, and so on. Sometimes it creates a misunderstanding. If we simply put no in front of everything, it sounds an awful lot like nihilism. But the goal of Zen is not the negation of life. The purpose of all this negation is so that we can realize the true reality, which is beyond opposites. We are simply limited by our language, and we can't put it any other way than no life and no death. That is where the doctrine of emptiness comes from. If we put no in front of everything, the only logical conclusion we can arrive at is that nothing exists. But, as said before, non-duality cannot be described in logical terms. When Zen masters say that nothing exists, they don't want to push their students down an endless abyss of nothingness. Instead, they want us to realize the true nature of reality, in which there are no opposites, in which all is one and one is all. It is a reality beyond words, beyond logic, and beyond human understanding. Even calling it a reality is wrong. So then, how in the world do we realize non-duality? How do we go from the dualistic point of view to the non-dualistic perspective? Earlier, we said that one grain of sand is the whole universe. In fact, we can say the same of us humans. There are many humans in the whole universe, but also just one of us, just one human, is that same universe. So, realizing the true nature of just one grain of sand, or just one human, is the same as realizing the nature of the whole universe. When a humble flower in the crannied wall is understood, the whole universe and all things in it and out of it are understood. End quote. Zen, Satori, enlightenment, all of those are the realization that you are the universe, and that the universe is you. Huineng calls that realization seeing into one's self-nature. Self-nature is another name for non-duality. It is beyond description, but even though we can't understand it, we can experience it, because we are self-nature, and self-nature is us. To realize that is no easy task. As Alan Watts said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. Still, Zen masters give us some practical instructions on how exactly we can realize the true reality. The method of abandoning the body consists first in meditating on emptiness, whereby the conscious mind is emptied. Let the mind, together with its world, be quieted down to a perfect state of tranquility. Let thought be cast in the mystery of quietude, so that the mind is kept from wandering from one thing to another. When the mind is tranquilized in its deepest abode, its entanglements are cut asunder. How unfathomable, how abysmal, the mind in its absolute purity is the void itself. Therefore, let a man discipline himself, first of all, in the realization of a perfect state of quietude in his mind. End quote. The key to seeing into our self-nature is the emptiness of our minds. Zen scholars call it the Doctrine of No-Mind. When there is mind, there is duality, there is life and death. When there is no mind, there is neither life nor death. The world neither is nor isn't. There is no individual identity. There is no ego. All is one and one is all. The second a thought appears, the second we become aware that we exist as an individual, non-duality is lost. To better understand it, let's hear a Zen story. A monk asked the master, "Where is Tao?" The master said, "It's right before us." "Why don't I see it?" asked the monk. "Because of your egoism, you cannot see it." "If I cannot see it, because of my egoism, can your reverence see it?" "As long as there is I and you, this complicates the situation, and there is no seeing the Tao," said the master. The monk asked, "When there is neither I nor you, can it be seen?" The master responded, "When there is neither I nor you, who is there to see it?" This dialogue shows us the logical absurdity of Zen. It's the same with many Zen stories. We hear them and we say, "I have no idea what any of this means." And that is exactly the point. We can never take hold of non-duality with logical thinking. We can never understand the doctrine of no mind by using our minds. The only way to do it is to quiet our minds and see into our self-nature. There is a common misconception that Zen propagates complete absence of any thought whatsoever and encourages cutting oneself off from the world. But that is only from a certain point of view. In actuality, Zen is a very practical teaching. Most Zen stories are about people doing everyday things, taking a walk, drinking tea, working in the field, or spending time with others. The key is doing all those things in a completely natural and unobstructed way. You can have your mind perfectly clear and still do all of those things. As Alan Watts said, just as you don't know how you manage to be conscious, how you grow and shape this body of yours, that doesn't mean to say that you're not doing it. Equally, you don't know how the universe shines the stars, constellates the constellations, and galactifies the galaxies. You don't know, but that doesn't mean to say that you aren't doing it in just the same way as you're breathing without knowing how to breathe. End quote. There are many ways of realizing the true nature of things, which is non-duality. Living all alone in a forest for 20 years is just one of them. But in reality, no matter what you do, if you have no mind while doing it, then all existence becomes effortless, and the whole universe truly belongs to you.